What's up, y'all? It's T-Tar, and welcome to more Paradox Pokemon you didn't know you wanted. And with the Indigo Disc coming out, there are two Paradox Pokemon we are more or less guaranteed to get, which are Entei and Terrakion. So I wanted to start with those. So the first one is Entei. We have Walking Wake and Raging Bolt. They've been turned into dragon types. Entei should be getting one. So I got a couple to show you. So we've talked about this one before, but I want to show it to you because this is a solid idea of probably what Entei will look like. So this is what it looks like. It's got the long tail with spikes on it and flames coming off it. It's got the same legs with the cuffs like Entei, but this time it kind of furrows up with this giant shield body. Now remember guys, these paradoxes, they're meant to ruin the legendary beasts. They're supposed to look weird. So we have T-Rex short arm Suicune, long neck giraffe Raikou, then we're gonna have bulky boy Entei. There's some ideas to show Entei flying and all, but I think this is the most accurate to what Pokemon would do. And the dinosaur it's based off, the Triceratops, is pretty fun too. It's a dinosaur that as it ages more and more, its horns only just keep growing, which is why it looks like this. So yeah, the front part is based off the Triceratops, and then the back part is based off another bulky dinosaur called the Stegosaurus. It's this passive herbivore, but that tail on it is really strong. And the spikes on its back work well with the spikes modern Entei already has on its back. Speaking of which, the idea has been going around that Paradox Pokemon are fake and dreams. I can't wait to finally see the verdict on what they are in this DLC. So yeah, this one's called Feral Flare, and it is a fire dragon type. All three of these are pretty rare typings. Okay, so now I want to show you some other weird designs for Entei, because remember, they're supposed to ruin what Entei looks like. So here's the first one. I wonder why Game Freak saved Entei for last. Could you imagine? It just looks absurd. So here's one where it's got a big pile of smoke coming out of its tail, and then its tail is actually all these spikes, so it's like generating smoke in some jet way, which interestingly resembles Entei. And then the front of it is just like a T-Rex again. So yeah, between these two, I still like the Stegosaurus better, and I also don't think they'd reuse the T-Rex. Alright, then there's this one where you got a small Entei tail and the four legs again, but this time this dude has a giant head. He looks like a Heatran. So in the concept art they drew for it, it's like it jumps off cliffs and crashes down like a meteor. I guess a play on dinosaurs dying because of a meteor, but it also gives a different meaning to why it has this big head. But yeah, Stegosaurus is still in the lead. And then last but not least, if you wanted to see some kind of cool design for Entei, which I don't think will be the case of what happens, we've got this one where it's got a slightly spiked tail, kind of like the Heath drawing shows. It lost the cuffs on its legs and has all the more spikes. It's got the giant Entei spikes fading to red, the smoky cape, and this kind of glorious mane. But its face has a more savage look, and it's got these giant horns with fire at the top. But yeah, I don't think Game Freak's gonna go with the serious design like this. So this one's kind of a different art style, but I think this is pretty close to what it'll look like. So it starts off with the four legs, which have a play on Entei having those cuffs. You know, some of it's broken here. Then on its back, you have these spikes playing on Entei spikes, but they're kind of made to look like volcanoes. And then you have that same smoky cape that Entei does. But the big change here is that whole Triceratops head, which after staring at for a while fits very well with Walking Wake and Raging Bolt. So yeah, the final verdict is pretty much like these. This is what Paradox Entei will look like. So after all that speculation, his counterpart, Paradox Terrakion, let's talk about him. We already know what it looks like, but here's a really good one that just looks like what Game Freak will show us. It pretty much looks like Terrakion, but it's got the glowing bits on its legs and its axe-like ears. It's been given the name Iron Cavern, and it's a rock psychic type. Imagine, right? After all that speculation for the Entei, this is all we're given for Terrakion. It's more or less this. But what will be interesting is to imagine how something might transform, like how Verizon's big horn comes out like a sword. Maybe Terrakion here gets some cool weapon as well. Maybe his two ears merge into one giant axe or something. I'm sure Game Freak will give us at least that. But yeah, about these two paradoxes, they'll also get new signature moves, which will be fun to look forward to. So while we're waiting for that, I want to show you another set of counterparts for two Hoenn Pokemon. So here's the first one. Now you'll never know based off the silhouette, but it is a past version of a gem hunting Pokemon. So you can see the purple body everywhere. It's got gems on its knuckles, two giant gems on its arms, and then a bunch of crystal spikes all on its back, which its body is naturally formed this black coating underneath. So as you can guess, this is a Paradox Sableye, but it's going off the idea that something is off about these Paradox Pokemon. So if you look at Sableye's front part, it's a giant Sableye gem, but it's got that Terra symbol in it. So yeah, this is some kind of macho Sableye back in the day. Its name is Diamond Knuckle, and it's listed as a ghost rock type. You know, I guess what it is it's an ancient Sableye in Area Zero that it just collected Terra jewels long enough that it, like Glimora, was affected by the Terra. It can consume up to 5 tons of rock daily until satisfied, showing a special preference for diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. I could totally imagine this thing wandering Area Zero. And so to counterpart this thing in Pokemon Violet would be, of course, its always been counterpart, this thing. Man, does this look so cool compared to future Pokemon. So at the bottom, you can see little Mawile with a tiny flaming jet because it's aiming something at an opponent. And what it's aiming is not its jaw, but this gigantic freaking cannon. It's even got a crosshair. This is actually an amazing take for a future Mawile because it wouldn't be using such a primitive jaw anymore. If they were to enhance Mawile in the future, this would be something they'd do. Give it this giant cannon. So its name is Iron Jaws and it's a steel electric type. I don't even see the jaws at this point. Gosh, I guess maybe it would wander with its cannon closed up so it would look more like a jaw. And then when it got into battle, it would freaking open up like some cyborg weapon. Iron Jaws' cannons are amazing devices. They have the ability to absorb static particles from the environment. Once they've built up enough electrical current, they can unleash a powerful, devastating beam. Apparently, Area Zero explorers claim the existence of plans detailing a gigantic version of Iron Jaws. Oh, this version in the blueprints is said to be capable of launching a beam so powerful it can destroy entire planets. Apparently, current technology does not allow this project to be carried out for at least another 5,000 years. This is interesting. You would imagine the ancient people were wielding the Terra shards so well that they would be way ahead of their time. Alright, so I gotta ask you, these two designs, if you could pick one and it turns real, which would you pick? Alright, and to end it off is one that makes you wish we were in a different timeline. So here's the silhouette here. I think y'all already know what it is, but the context here is if the legendary beasts were actually made into future versions. So instead of walking wake in the past, you found this one in Area Zero. And it is amazing, so check it out. Instead of Suicune's normal ribbons, it's got these flowing water ribbons. It's so pure and elegant, and instead of Suicune's flowing cape, it actually has this whole water structure at the top of its head. It's got the same crystal crown, a more metallic body with this blue, and a bunch of steel bits. It is a future Suicune called Iron Purity. Gosh, this is so good, and what is amazing about this is it looks so much like what Game Freak could do. Like, I know Paradoxes like Hydreigon look the same, but you do have some that kind of push the limits of looking like the same Pokemon, like Delibird. You know, if Game Freak was lazy with Delibird, they wouldn't have made that whole water cannon bit. That's kind of unique. So it's like if Game Freak really made a future Suicune and decided to push it realistically, this is a totally possible design. And yeah, it's also given the beautiful typing of water flying. It kind of makes you wish there was like a third DLC after the Indigo Disc, or they would at least flip one or two of the paradoxes. It says a dubious magazine describes this Pokemon as a water purifying machine combined with a wind making machine from a distant post-human future. Right, so a dubious magazine means modern people making up a Pokedex entry for it, the same way we call Iron Moth the UFO. This Pokemon travels all over the world, purifying polluted and tainted bodies of water, as well as bringing the winds of the world to places to create wind energy for civilizations in need of the energy. Like I said, this is a spin on Suicune being this water purifying Pokemon. I mean, this is what it says for Suicune back in the first games. This divine Pokemon blows around the world, always in search of pure reservoir. I never realized this. Suicune has always been partially a wind Pokemon. It says it all over here. Pokemon Gold, said to be the reincarnation of North Winds. It can instantly purify filthy murky water. Oh sucker, of course water flying is perfect then. See, a lot of entries later on take out the part of it being like the wind. They just say it runs across the land with gracefulness and purifies water. But from the start, Suicune has always been this half wind, half water purifying Pokemon. This is crazy. Alright, so I am happy with what we got with Walking Wake, but stuff like this makes me just wish the future Pokemon were done differently. Anyhow, make sure y'all shank that like button and let me know a Paradox idea y'all have in the comments, even for maybe a game past the Indigo Disc, you never know. And I got a few more of these to show y'all, so I'll see y'all next time. Take care.